Please be seated. The court is now back in session. Again, the floor is given to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor to put questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, we were talking about the arrests that you witnessed of two of your superiors, and you had described what you saw that day at Boring Prayup. The people who came to arrest them, were they armed? Did they have weapons?
When they came to arrest Num and Sro Lao, they were armed, and there were 4 to 5 of them. I was present there when they came, and when they arrived, they called Num to meet them, and when Num came out, he was arrested. He was tied up and arrested.
All right, you've testified that you were in Battalion 314 of Division 310, the Logistics Battalion, and that's confirmed by your biography. There are a few Battalion 314 cadres who appear in the records from S21 that I would like to ask you about. With your leave, Mr. President, I'd like to provide to the witness a document from S21, a list of prisoners from Division 310. It appears in document E3/2592, E3/2592. May I provide that to the witness with your leave?
Yes, you may.
The two people I'd like to ask you about appear on the first page of this document, Mr. Witness. Let's start first with number 28 on this list. Number 28 on this list of prisoners from Division 310 is a person, Va B, identified as the Secretary of Battalion 314, who entered S21 on the 5th of May, 1977. Your Honors, he also appears as number 13-294 on the OCIJ list. That's 13-294 on the OCIJ list. The person that I've circled, number 28, it's down at the bottom of the first page. Do you remember this person who is identified as the Secretary of Battalion 314?
No, I do not recall that. I only recall Yit and Kran. And I don't recall the Saban.
The second person on the same list is the person who appears at number 14. Number 14 on S21 list E32592. And the name of this person is Mak Yi Hung, alias Nim. He's described in this list as a battalion office assistant responsible for logistics, who entered S21 on the 8th of May, 1977. And the same person also appears as number 4701 on the OCIJ list, 4701 on the OCIJ S21 list, where he's identified as the Assistant Chief of the Battalion 314 Logistics Office. This person who appears at number 14, whose alias is Nim, is this the same person that you've described in your testimony, the Nim who was the deputy chief of your unit?
Yes, I know Nim. He was my chief as well.
And just so we're clear, is this the same Nim whose arrest you witnessed at Boeng Prayap that you just described earlier this afternoon?
Yes. Nam was arrested. He was previously for the logistics unit in Battalion 314. However, he was based at Bang Prayap, although he belongs to Battalion 314.
Thank you. Your Honors, for the record, Nim also appears as number 9 in an S-21 list of 198 prisoners who were smashed on the 10th of June, 1977. That is document E3/2132. E3/2132. Again, Nim is number 9 in that execution list. I want to also ask you a few questions about some of the people who you had worked with at the Preah Khet Malay Hospital. Do you know whether any of the people, your fellow workers from Preah Khet Malay Hospital, were arrested or disappeared in 1977?
At that time, Division 310 was dissolved when the Southwest Group came to take charge. So those people who worked at Preah Khet Malay Hospital all disappeared, and I did not know whether they were reassigned elsewhere or they were sent elsewhere, because by that time the unit was dissolved.
And the people who disappeared from Preah Khet Malay Hospital, were these people who, like yourself, had originally come from the North Zone, Zone 304?
No, they all came from the Central Zone.
I think we're talking about the same zone. Do you recall that the Central Zone, before it was called the Central Zone, it was originally known as the North Zone or Zone 304? Do you recall that, or have you forgotten that?
From 1970 to the time of the coup d'etat to fight the Tribunal soldiers, the zone was known as a Zone 304.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Do you know what happened to wives and relatives of the leaders of Division 310, such as the wife of Division 310 Secretary Un? Do you know what happened to wives and relatives after the leaders of the Division 310 were arrested?
At that time, I did not know. I only heard from other people that the wife of the commander was also arrested and taken along with her husband.
I've provided to you earlier the OCIJ interview of the fellow medic who worked with you at Prayaket Malay, Yorn, and I want to read to you another excerpt from his interview. This is again E3 5497, E3 5497, Khmer ERN 00343, 724 through 726, French 00411, 790 through 791, and English 00345, 959. And this is what Yorn testified in his OCIJ interview. He's discussing here the hospital. Question: was So the hospital chairman until the fall of the regime? Answer: So stayed as the hospital chairman until approximately late 1976. I heard later on that he had been sent for a study course and he just disappeared. After Sao had disappeared, Vun, a female, became the hospital chairwoman. Vun was the wife of Un, the commander of Division 310. People told one another that So had been arrested by the Ankar. Following So's arrest, the hospital staff members were arrested one after another. And then continuing a few questions later. By the time Un, Division 310 commander, was arrested, Vun, Un's wife, and the chairwoman of Ankh Dung Hospital was also arrested following Un's arrest. End of quote. Do you remember the wife of Division 310 Commander Un? And do you remember whether she worked for a period as the chairwoman of the Division 310 hospital?
At that time, he used to be chief of Division 310 hospital.
Did you ever meet her?
She was in a senior position. I myself was only a low-rank staff. I did not dare to speak to her.
Fair enough, Mr. Witness. Your Honors, for the record, number 6961 on the OCIJ S21 list is Prum Nor alias Veen, identified as the wife of Un and chief of the children's team in Division 310, entering S21 on the 26th or 27th of February 1977. Now, Mr. Witness, I want to turn now to your own arrest. Counsel for the defense has asked you some questions about your arrest already. I want to ask you a few follow-ups. You testified that you were put in a truck and taken to an office where you stayed for 2 or 3 days. During those 2 or 3 days, were you shackled, handcuffed, or tied up?
They detained me and did not allow me to go anywhere. they told me to wait for Angkar, that Angkar would come to call a meeting and that we would be taken away. I was ordered to remain at one place and not to go anywhere.
I understand that you were ordered to remain there. Were you put in handcuffs, or were you tied up while you were in this office waiting for Angkar?
They put me in a room, and the room was locked, so no, I could not go anywhere. However, I could look outside through an iron bar or window.
Let me read to you an excerpt from your DC Cam interview. This is E3 7537, E3 7537, Khmer ERN 000-19647 through 648, French 00291 005 through 06, and English 00251 255. This is from your DC Camp interview. Question: when you arrived at the prison, did they point any guns at you? Answer: no, there were no guns. They asked me if I worked with any Yun, Vietnamese spies, called KGB. I said I just cured people, I didn't have any connections. They asked if I received any indoctrination, and I said no, I just did what I was told to do. And continuing a little later, I slept there overnight. On the next morning, Yeet came. He claimed that I wasn't involved in any activity hindering our party. He said so. And I didn't know the prison was there. I thought I was just transferred to work there. Question: were you handcuffed? Answer: no. It was just that they didn't care about our meals. I didn't have anything to eat and didn't know where to go and eat. But they went out to eat, so I just sat there and waited to see where I was to be transferred. Yeet came the next day, late in the afternoon. End of quote. I just want to confirm, Mr. Witness, is it correct that you weren't provided any meals while you were at this office, and that the people who worked at the office would leave you there when they went to go have their meals? Is that correct?
Yes, that's what happened at the time. They did not care about me. And I never thought of the purpose why I was brought there. They didn't think of giving us meals. So at the time, there were food ration, and if I did not go, it means that I would not have my ration.
And you've said this a few times during your testimony, that you didn't know that you were at a prison office, and you said in the statement I just read that you thought you had been transferred to work there. Do I understand correctly that during the couple of days you were there, that you thought that you had been sent to this new office to work, and that you didn't realize you were at a prison office until Yeet showed up? Is that correct?
Yes, Yid showed up, and only later on when Yid was released, he told me about that.
And when you were released from this office, how did you return to your unit? How were you transported back to your unit? Did you go back with Yeet, or did you go separate? Can you tell the court how it is that you were released and transported back to your unit?
When we returned, that is after Yid came to resolve the matter, I took a ride with Yid.
And what time of day was it? Was it during the daytime or at nighttime when Yeet came to get you?
Yid came at noon time, and after he solved the matters with them, then we left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
So when you left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, can you describe a little about what the building looked like and what the premises, what the area looked like that you left with Yeet at 3 o'clock that day?
The building looked scary because it was not in an open field. All the doors were locked.
I want to read to you an excerpt from your OCIJ interview about the time that you were arrested and brought to this office. Your Honors, this is E3 7877, E3 7877, Khmer 00342 436 through 437, French 00411 785, English 00346 979, and you're describing here the time at which you were arrested. Quote, at that time, I lived at Anlong Ka Nyan. An American 4x4 SUV with covered roof but no number plate came to pick us up. They did not tie me up when I was on the vehicle. Then the vehicle stopped at Boeng Srayab to pick up another 2 men. They dropped us at an office that I do not know what office it was. End of quote. When you testified to OCIJ, Mr. Witness, you didn't mention Tool slang in that interview, and in the statement I just read, you said you did not know the office where you were detained for a couple of days. Is it correct that you don't know what office you spent these 2 days or so in? Is that correct?
At that time, I had a suspicion because they did not use me and they did not care about me, so I knew that I must have done something wrong because the division was accused of a treacherous division, and since I was a member, I would also be accused as being a traitor.
The reason I'm asking you about this is I want to get some clarification. You were asked yesterday, you were read a quote from your DC Cam interview where you mentioned tool slang, and you were asked by counsel why you said you were at tool slang in your DC Cam interview. And this is the answer you gave yesterday, and you've given essentially the same answer here today. You said, after people were placed at that prison charged by OL, those people would be further sent to tool slang. End of quote. Do I understand correctly that the office where you were located, which was run by OL, was not part of tool slang, but that some of the people at this office, as you understand it, were sent further on to tool slang? Do I understand your testimony correctly?
Yes, that quote is correct. Because people were not sent straight away to tool slang, they were sent to their location first before they were sent further to tool slang.
And just to make sure we're clear on this, Your Honors, I'd like to provide to the witness a photograph of the wall that surrounded the tool slang prison. This is E3 8063.95. Let me repeat, E3/8063.95. With your leave, I'll provide that to the witness and display it. We can also display it on the screen.
Yes, you may, and every unit, please show that document on the screen as requested by the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Now, in this photograph that we're looking at, we see on one side what is a corrugated fence, and on the right side is a iron rod fence, and between it a large amount of barbed wire. My question for you, the office where you were held for 2 or 3 days, was it in a compound that was surrounded by a fence like this that had barbed wire?
During the few-day detention, it was an iron fence, and there were armed guards who were there, and they did not allow us to walk freely.
I understand. My question is, did you see barbed wire? Barbed wire? Did you see a perimeter to this compound that had both an outer fence and an inner fence, and in between circles of barbed wire? Did you see anything like that?
When I was brought to the office, the prison office, there were no such similar fences, but the doors or entrance was closed at the prison office. But when I was sent to Slang, yes, there were such fences.
What do you mean when you were sent to Tool Slang? We're talking here about the office where you run by Ol, where you spent 2 days. Do I understand correctly that there was no fence like this with barbed wire at the office run by Ol? Is that correct?
បាទអត់មាន
No fence like this. That office was the location where the biography was collected. There were no barbed wires at that office.
And counsel asked you this yesterday, but I just want to make sure. After the period that you spent these 2 days at the office run by Ol, did you ever go back to look at Tool Slang at any time after the end of the Khmer Rouge regime?
I never went after 1979. After the attacks and victory of Vietnamese after 1979, I never went to Slang. However, I came to Phnom Penh once in a while.
And just so we're clear here, do I understand correctly that when Yeet came to pick you up at Ol's office, that he took you in his vehicle from Ol's office back to your unit? Is that right?
បាទ
He took me back.
Now, you indicated in the OCIJ interview that I read a few minutes ago that at the time you were first picked up by the truck, you were at a place called An Long Kar Nyan. Can you tell us where was An Long Kar Nyan and what were you doing at that location before you were arrested?
នៅលងកងាននោះ
When I was arrested, I was still a medic going around and treated soldiers at Alongkangan. Those soldiers were working on the farm and some were operating the millers, rye millers. I was still a medic at the time.
And could you just give us some sense of where was An Long Kar Nyan? Was it in Phnom Penh or was it outside the city?
The logistics unit of Battalion 314 headquarters was in Phnom Penh, but the branches ran from Phumemai up to Bang Prayab and Kopsreu. There was a saw. There was the warehouse where the saws were kept, and there was a rice warehouse as well.
So do I understand that this was an area where Division 310 people had been sent to farm rice? This was the same area as Bong Prayap?
លង Ba lông cả ngàn nó người tơi hua.
Long Kangan was a bit further compared to Long Kangan. Members of Division 310 went to farm rice from their location up until Kopstro.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Witness. I want to turn now to some questions about the Kampong Chhnang airport site that you've already testified that you were sent to that site sometime after your arrest. You testified that you were told you were being sent to this place for tempering or refashioning. What did you understand it to mean when you were told you were being sent to Kampong Chhnang Airport for tempering or refashioning? What did you understand that to mean?
They sent me to Kampong Chhnang airfield, the refashioning location. I was told to refashion myself so that I can survive from the killings. And if I had not tried my best to refashion myself, I would have been considered to be, a break to the machine which was running. So I was told to try my best to work.
And how many months in total did you work at the Kampong Chhnang airport site?
Ban bay khai bà nơi lụt đom.
I was refashioned at the location for 3 months. Then they said Vietnam attacked Cambodia. It was at the time when I was told that we had been all refashioned, so we had to be equipped with weapons in order to go to attack Vietnam because Vietnam invaded Cambodia.
And the 3 months that you were refashioned at the Kampong Chhnang airport site, was this in 1977 or 1978?
Lụt đom nơi khung.
It was in 1978.
Can you describe for the court the work that you were required to perform during these 3 months that you were at the Kampong Chhnang airport site?
They built an airport in Kampong Chhnang. I was told to dig the ground and burn the explosives in the mountain so that the stones could be broken into pieces, and then we could build an airport. And we were told to remove all the garbage under the ground, even a small piece of it, because they were afraid that the war planes could not land at that area after the airport was built.
You indicated that one of your tasks was, it was translated as burning explosives in the mountain in order to get stones. Can you be a little more specific? And did you handle explosives yourself? And can you tell the court what it is that you had to do?
There was a comrade who was specialized in burning that explosive. I was the one who broke the rock in order to install the explosive in the hole.
So you would break a hole in the rock where the explosive would be put. How was the explosive detonated after you had created this hole and the explosive had been put in? How were these explosives detonated?
When we burned the explosive, the explosive exploded like a bomb, and some of those who stay close to the area got injured of the pieces, of the stone pieces.
Just so I understand, when you said that you would burn them, do you mean that these explosives had a fuse that you would light? Is that how they were set off?
There was a fuse, and explosive was connected to that fuse.
And how often were workers injured or killed when these explosives were ignited?
Some were digging the dirt. They did not pay attention to the stone shrapnels and got injured. Many of them who did not pay attention to the ignition of the fuse got injured, but some others were told and they did not get injured.
How often during the 3 months you were there, how much of that time, how much of the 3 months did you spend working on the blasting of the rock, the use of these explosives?
I started my work at 4 in the morning, but I had to wake up 1 hour before, that is 3 a.m., and I had to work in blasting the rock or burning the wick until 12 p.m.
What I was trying to understand was, is this something that you did every day during the 3 months you were at Camp on Chenang, or is it something you only worked on for a specific time period?
It depended on the supervisor who assigned the work. Sometimes it was my shifts. For example, if I was tasked with digging the dirt, I had to do, and some others would be assigned to blast the rock.
Let me read what you said in your OCIJ interview, E3 7877, Khmer 00342 437, English 00346 979, French 00411 785 through 786. And you're describing here your work at Camp on Chenang. Quote, I was sent to Kampong Chenang alone in approximately 1978. They had me make holes in the rock to put dynamites for the blasting in order to make caves for parking aircrafts, and the rocks were grinded for the airfield runways. On average, 5 to 6 people got injured because of the blasting. End of quote. I wanted to get some clarification of what you meant when you said that on average 5 to 6 people got injured. Were you talking about every day, every week, every month? Can you give us a sense of how often people were injured as a result of the dynamite blasting?
During the time that we ignite the wick of fuse, if a lot of fuses were burnt or ignited, many were injured. But if on some particular day not so many fuses or wicks were burnt, not so many people got injured by the rock pieces.
Okay, I'd like to show you a few photographs that we have from the Kampong Chenang site. Mr. President, with your leave, let me start with these are photographs that appear in the OCIJ site identification report E3 8041, E3 8041 at Khmer page 003844449. And there's 2 photographs on that page that I will show the witness. And with your leave, if I can provide that to the witness, and I think we can also display them on the screen.
Yes, you may proceed. Every unit, please show the video or photo on the screen as requested by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
So there are 2 photographs on the page I've just handed you, and if we can show the first one on the screen. So the first photograph I want to ask you about, you can see a gentleman pointing, and in the background there is a hill with a rock face. Do you recognize this location, Mr. Witness? And if so, can you tell us what it is?
It appears not the location where I worked. I do not recognize it.
Do you know, were you working at the same location where you were blasting the rock? Was this the same place that they were making a tunnel into the mountain, or was that at a different location?
ធ្វើនៅពលា
A tunnel was made in order to keep aeroplanes. A hole was made into the mountain. It was said that a tunnel was built in order to allow the airplanes to land in that tunnel.
And my question to you was, the place where this tunnel was being blasted out of the mountain, was that the same place where you were helping to plant explosives?
That location ran from the airport. There were people building the runway, and there were people making the tunnel in order to allow the plane to land.
All right. Mr. President, if we could display on the screen the second photograph. This is from the same page of the OCIJ Site Identification Report E38041. If we could show the second photograph.
បាទអង្គមានអនុញ្ញាត
Yes, please.
And this is in the same page that I handed to you, Mr. Witness. In this photograph, this individual is pointing to a wall of some sort. And my question for you is, do you remember this location, the wall that this witness is pointing to?
President, you may only answer when the microphone is activated. It is not really a wall. It's a kind of a hill.
ពេលធ្វើនោះ
In fact, we built a tunnel in the mountain, and we break the rock in order to build the runway. The airport was not yet completed at the time because we were moved to attack the Vietnamese troops at the border.
Do you remember whether it was a small hill or a small wall that was built for workers to hide behind when the dynamite exploded? Do you remember anything like that?
I recalled that there was a small wall, but not the big one, the one which is pointed by that individual.
Mr. President, I have some additional photographs to show, and these photographs come from what is the third site identification report done by OCIJ. This is a site identification report that's specifically related to the tunnel. It is document E38055. E38055. With your leave, I'd like to provide that report to the witness, and I have some questions about the photographs that appear in it.
Yes, please.
Mr. Witness, if you can turn to the what is the second photo in here, and if we can display it on the screen as well, with your leave, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
If you could go back to the photo before that one. So the photograph that we're looking at now, Mr. Witness, is the a hole that was blasted into the side of this mountain. That is the beginning of a tunnel. Do you recognize this location? Do you know if this is the place where you were blasting a rock using dynamite?
Yes, that is the location, but I cannot remember well. We made a hole, in fact.
Do you remember how deep, at the end of the 3 months that you worked at the site, this tunnel that was being blasted into the mountain, how deep was it at that point in time? How many meters deep was the tunnel into the mountain?
I was there for 3 months. The tunnel was about 10 meters deep. The rocks was hard, and we could make the hole inside it step by step.
If we could now show the next photograph. This is photograph number 3 that appears in OCIJ site report E38055. If we can show that on the screen. Mr. Witness, this is a photograph that was taken by investigators just after entering the tunnel, the hole that we saw in the previous photograph. At the time that you left the site, do you remember how high was the tunnel that you had built or blasted in the mountain?
We don't dispute tunnels being built at Kampong Chai airfield at all, and I'm sure this is one of the tunnels, but putting this tunnel to the witness and then leading him into confirming this is of course not any proper manner in getting evidence, but as I said, we concede that tunnels were being built.
I'm grateful that counsel concedes that. I have questions I would like to ask the witness about this process. I think the photographs give us a picture of what was going on there. So if I may proceed, Mr. President, my question is, how high was the tunnel at the end of the 3 months that this witness worked?
President, please observe the microphone, Mr. Witness. I do not recall. It happened a long time ago.
Let me ask you a few more questions before we finish today. You've indicated that you used dynamite, that you had to light a fuse. How long after the fuse was lit did people have to protect themselves or hide before the explosion took place? Do you remember how long you had to get away from the explosion site?
When the fuse was being lighted, we had to run. Sometimes we could run in time, but some other times we did not run timely to a safer place.
Were you aware of, during the 3 months you were there, whether any people were killed as a result of these explosions?
Sometimes I heard the blast hit the back of the neck and people died. But I did not witness the dead bodies. We were divided into groups in charge of different tasks to perform.
Mr. President, I was going to turn to some questions about the general conditions. If you want me to continue, I can, or I can break here.
President, thank you. It is now time for the adjournment. The hearing, the chamber will resume its hearing on Wednesday, 7 December 2016 at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, the chamber will conclude the testimony of this witness. Please be in time. Please be on time. Mr. Witness, the hearing of your testimony has not come to an end yet. You are therefore invited to come and testify again tomorrow. Court officer, please work with the vessel to send the witness back to the place where he is staying now, and please invite him into the courtroom tomorrow. And it may take only one session in the morning tomorrow. Security personnel are instructed to bring Nguyen Chien Kieu Sampon back to the ECC detention facility and have them returned into the courtroom before 9 a.m. tomorrow. The court is now adjourned.